11 states are challenging the White House with one major lawsuit. They're fighting the Obama administration's directive to public schools on bathrooms and transgender students.
The White House has told schools to let students use the bathrooms and locker rooms that they believe match their, quote, gender identity. The states say that violates common sense policies to protect children and their privacy. Caitlin Burke has the story.
Texas and 10 other states are refusing to follow the new transgender directive from the Obama administration. Instead, they're asking the courts to declare it unlawful, accusing the administration of engineering a massive social experiment and bypassing the democratic process.
Simply put, the Obama administration is creating new law outside the bounds of the Constitution, making the kind of changes only Congress can make.
Texas's lieutenant governor previously went as far as to say the state is willing to give up the $10 billion it receives in federal education money rather than comply. The directive from the U.S. Justice and Education Department represents an escalation of what the Obama administration calls a civil rights issue.
This is about the dignity and the respect that we accord our fellow citizens.
The White House hasn't commented on the lawsuit. But this isn't the latest legal fight over transgender rights. Earlier this month, the Justice Department and the state of North Carolina sued each other over a state law curbing public restroom access for transgender people. The question of whether federal civil rights law protects those who identify as transgender has no definitive answer, and it will likely be decided by the Supreme Court. Still, schools that refuse to comply with the Obama administration's directive could very likely be hit with civil rights lawsuits from the government and a cutoff of federal aid to education. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Well, this is an election year, and this is going to be, amazingly, one of the top election issues, is what's your stand on bathrooms. It's absolutely crazy. So we're going to see this lawsuit go forward. It's going to ultimately, though, decide on who we elect in November. John Jessup has more of our top stories from Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. Most abortions after 20 weeks are now illegal in South Carolina after Republican Governor Nikki Haley signed a bill into law Wednesday. The only exceptions are if the mother's life is in jeopardy or if a doctor determines the unborn baby cannot survive outside the womb. Doctors face up to $10,000 in fines and 3 years in prison for each violation. Well, Hillary Clinton is already catching a lot of flack and could face more political troubles in the weeks ahead. In addition to the new government report saying she broke State Department rules by using a personal email server as Secretary of State, the FBI is also conducting an investigation about the server, and Congress is expected to release a special report on the 2012 Benghazi attack. Well, France is slowly being paralyzed by nationwide strikes as French workers try to stop the government from changing some of the socialistic rules on businesses and make the country more economically competitive. Dale Hurd has this report from Paris.
French drivers are hunting for gasoline and waiting in long lines to get it because of strikes and blockades at the nation's fuel refineries. The government has had to cut fuel reserves to deal with gasoline shortages caused by strikes and protest over a bill that would trim employment protections. This driver says from last night until 1 o'clock in the morning, I searched with my wife for a gas station and all were empty or closed. This driver says the French people are totally taken hostage. Bernie Sanders supporters need to pay attention to this crisis because the French government is trying to escape from the kind of socialism that Sanders wants to bring to America. Unions are targeting the nation's gas supplies, railroads, and electricity network as they try to push the government to drop labor reform devised to make France more globally competitive. French strikes like this one can be violent, with burning barricades, tear gas, and street fighting. The French government says it won't back down and has sent riot police to uproot protesters blocking fuel depots and has authorized use of reserves to resupply gas stations that have run dry. France has about 3 months of fuel reserves left. Dale Hurd, CBN News, Paris.